Imagine you are a young American soldier in the middle of the Vietnam War. You are surrounded by triple canopy jungle, hidden traps, and an enemy you can rarely see. You carry a rifle, several grenades, and 70 pounds of gear. But in your right hand, there is something that does not belong in a war zone. It is a wooden cane. It is not used because of an injury. It is covered in strange carvings, dragons, snakes, and often a very rude hand gesture at the top. Why did their officers allow this, and what secret did these sticks hold? We are looking at one of the most unique and rebellious traditions of the Vietnam War, the short timer stick. To understand the stick, you have to understand the system. Unlike World War II, where soldiers served until the war was won, the Vietnam War used a rotation system. For a soldier in the United States Army, a tour of duty lasted exactly 365 days. For a Marine, it was 13 months. From the second a soldier stepped off the plane at airbase, he knew exactly when he was supposed to leave. This date was called the DEROS, or the Date Estimated Return from Overseas. For the first few months, a soldier was a newbie. He was inexperienced and dangerous to be around. But as the months passed, the countdown became his entire life. When a soldier reached the final 100 days of his tour, his status changed forever. He became a short timer. On the 99th day, he entered the double-digit zone. This was a massive psychological milestone. The soldier was no longer just a part of the machine. He was a man who could see the finish line. This is where short timers fever began. The soldier became obsessed with survival. He didn't want to be the last man to die in a war that was already ending for him. To show the world he was almost done, he needed a symbol. He needed the stick. The short timer stick was never official military equipment. You could not find it in a supply room. Each stick was a piece of trench art. Some soldiers found a sturdy piece of local hardwood or bamboo while on patrol. They would spend their nights in a base camp bunker, slowly carving their story into the wood. However, many soldiers preferred to buy their sticks from local Vietnamese artisans. Vietnamese wood carvers became experts at knowing what the Americans wanted. For a few dollars, a soldier could get a custom-made cane. The materials told a story of the war. Some sticks were purely wooden, but others used pieces of the battlefield. It was common to see handles made from the brass casings of 40mm grenade launchers. The stick was a physical bridge between the violent jungle of Vietnam and the civilian life waiting for him back in the United States. If you look closely at photos of these sticks, you will notice something strange. The top of the cane often features a hand gesture. Sometimes it is a middle finger. Why carry a rude gesture? Because the short timer stick was an anti-authoritarian symbol. By carrying a cane, the soldier was acting like a gentleman of leisure rather than a disciplined fighter. Like he was telling his sergeants and officers, I am already a civilian in my mind. You cannot break me anymore. In many infantry units, there was a legend that carrying a short timer stick gave you special protection. It was a totem. There was an unwritten rule among some platoons. If a man is carrying a stick, don't put him at the front of the line. Don't make him the point man who walks into an ambush first. Officers and senior sergeants often hated the sticks. To them, the stick represented a breakdown in discipline. A soldier with a stick was a soldier who was no longer focused on the mission. He was thinking about the world, which is what they called the United States. But many commanders allowed it. They knew that if they took away the stick, they might break the soldier's spirit. In some elite or tight-knit units, the tradition was even more organized. Instead of everyone having their own cane, the unit had one legacy stick. This was a single, highly decorated cane that belonged to the entire platoon. The rule was simple. The man with the least amount of time left in the war carried the stick. He was the king of the short timers. When his final day arrived and he was ready to board the Freedom Bird, the silver airplane that flew soldiers back to America, there was a ceremony. In front of the whole squad, he would hand the stick to the next man in line. This was a powerful moment of brotherhood. It was a promise that the cycle would continue. It was a message of hope. I survived, and now it is your turn to survive. While the stick was the most famous symbol, it wasn't the only one. Soldiers also used short timer calendars. These were often drawings of a woman or a cartoon character like Snoopy. The drawing was divided into 365 small squares. Every day, the soldier would color in one square. Some of these calendars were very creative. They were often posted inside bunkers or on the walls of tents. As the picture became more colorful, the soldier's heart beat faster. When you are in a war, time feels like it has stopped. Everything is a blur of fear and boredom. By carving a notch or coloring a square, the soldier reclaimed his life one day at a time. But what happened to the sticks when the war ended? Sadly, most of them never made it back to America. Military customs and airport security often considered the canes to be unauthorized weapons or hazardous wood. As soldiers stood in line at the airport to go home, they were often told to throw their sticks in the trash. The soldiers were so happy to leave that they didn't care about the wood anymore. They were the lucky ones. They had survived. The short timer stick is a haunting reminder of the human side of war. It was about a young man counting the seconds until he could see his mother, his wife, or his hometown again. It was a symbol of defiance, survival, and the strange humor that soldiers used to stay sane in the darkness. Today, the few sticks that survived are kept in museums or by the families of veterans. They are no longer seen as anti-authority symbols, but as valuable pieces of folk art. They tell a story of a generation that was sent to the other side of the world and found a way to hold on to their identity through a piece of carved wood. If you found this story fascinating, please give this video a like and share it with someone who loves history.